Hello, good day. Hello, beautiful stars. I am Courtney, host of Stars of the Morning Light, and you are here for Edgar Cayce Life Skill Studies. Yes, it's been maybe 2 weeks or so since you've seen me last. The remnants of me still unpacking are right behind me. So I had to travel. I'm glad everybody got caught up. I've been noticing that people are catching up with Edgar Cayce Life Skill Studies. Thank you. This is my best show that I have here, apparently, or the one that everyone gravitates to more so. So I appreciate all the likes, shares, and subscribes. Okay, so we are going to be in Edgar Cayce on Reincarnation again, folks. I have my reasons why. It's not that I don't love doing his biography, I really, truly do. But this source material, I am realizing why people do like being in it. And I really, really want to get through this to get to his predictions, his notifications, his messages, what have you, from the Akashic about the time we're living in. The whole reason why I started this series as an Akashic messenger was to bring what Edgar had said 100 years forward. We can learn a lot about his life's journey, especially those who are gifted or waking up to their gifts. And we can also learn a lot from his source materials, especially about the time we're living in. And y'all, I gotta say, we gotta start cracking. We gotta start really looking at it. Speaking of which, this Friday, so in 2 days, March 21st. Happy equinox, everybody. March 21st, 2025. I apologize I was not here last Friday live at 11 a.m., but I will be here this Friday. Travel plans got all discombobulated all over the place. And I did not have enough energy or resource or time to be here with you live on Friday. This Friday, then, is going to be the opening of a series about the pole shifts and what that means to us, the earth, us. We're part of this, right? And I probably will actually use some Edgar Cayce material in discussing that. So we're going to kind of get Edgar on Wednesdays and on Fridays sometimes when I bring in other source material to talk about the pole shift. So stay tuned for that. It's definitely time to start talking about it, isn't it? So I see. Good day, everyone. I see Seeker of Truth came in. Kim came in. Whoa, Scotty Boy's here. Hello, sir. Lori's here. Wow, good to see everybody. Because I am live, I do try to communicate with those in the chat. So, hello, everyone. Good day. I hope you are well. Yes, the sun is shining. I see Chloe's in the chat. Beloveds, a little bit of a sneak peek of what's happening Saturday here at Stars of the Morning Light. Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, our beloved Chloe will be on with Lucky and I for Esoteric Tea, teaching us about crystals, which I can't wait. I'm so excited for that because I don't know much about crystals. It's not something that stays within my memory banks. Chloe will probably teach us all great, wonderful things because she's a beautiful being, Miss Chloe. And then I swear a day later, I'm probably going to forget everything. It just doesn't stick. But that's why we're a community. That's why we all have our gifts, talents, and skills to share. So watch out for that, everybody. That's this Saturday here at Stars of Morning Light at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Crystal Time with Chloe. I can't wait. And I see that Pa Joe came in. Oh my goodness. Good to see you, my dear. Yes. Well, happy Wednesday, everybody. I'm kind of surprised. The chat is on fire today. Good to see everyone. All right, beloveds. I think I know why you came. We are in chapter 9 of Edgar Cayce on Reincarnation. Very old book from 1969, written beautifully. I love this material. It's great stuff. This episode is actually most of what I'm going to read today is of Edgar's words, either when he was giving a talk for the ARE or possibly a little bit in readings, but it's really Edgar talking about his experience and his thoughts on the matter. And we're going to delve into it. We're probably not going to get through the entire chapter because I'm going to, like I said, bring it 100 years forward and or give credit to Edgar through my own experience as a reader so you all can understand kind of there is a process to this stuff. So we are in chapter 9. Edgar Cayce's own credo. So the beginning of the chapter kind of references that in 1941, Edgar gave a reading to two different members of the Association of Research and Enlightenment, which is the Edgar Cayce Research and Enlightenment Association. It's still in the works today, as we all know. I hear that they have the most amazing library. Of course they do. I do plan on one day getting there. That's going to be a long drive. Definitely a long drive. The reason I say that, folks, is because trying to get home from Illinois on a plane. So here's a little reason why I missed last week. I spent 16 hours in two different airports in the middle of the night. What would have been a 4-hour trip took 16 hours. So I'm a professional driver. I have a CDL. I think I'm just going to drive cross country from now on. I could have gotten home faster driving. So I do plan on getting there though at some point. The ARE is in Virginia, right? Virginia, somewhere in there. Up there by Lucky. Maybe I'll go visit Lucky and then hop on over. So Edgar is talking about, or they open up this chapter with in 1941, Edgar gave a reading to a couple of the associates there. Two pretty good, valuable members, let's say, because a lot of the members would do work, like write these source materials and do other things. One of them was actually the writer of the biography that we use when we're in Edgar's biography. So two men that really were very much a part of the association. And what was beautiful is in these readings about these two men, it was come to find out that in their past, they had been together multiple times, but on different sides of what was ever going on. And somehow in this life, they were able to work out their differences and come together for a greater good. Let's read. In the distant past, these two members had been enemies in more than one life. Not so much because their ideals conflicted, but because they were serving the same ideals at cross purposes. So, i.e., company against company, nation against nation, culture against culture, right? Rather than hating one another, they had been jealous of each other's glory. The war between their egos had taken precedence over their service to their fellow man and delayed their spiritual progress down the centuries. We're going to actually talk a bit about this because I'm going to scroll on down through my eyes and read this for you. In this same reading, that Edgar gave voice to his own intense concern for the unenlightened soul in a period immediately following physical death. Take note, everyone. If the soul has lived in ignorance of the unbroken flow of life from one plane of consciousness to the next, he may pass over without understanding until the opportunity for understanding is seemingly past. And then it goes on to talk about why they established the ARE in the first place. Is Edgar spoke, and this will come up numerous times, everyone. Edgar spoke very intensely, as they said. He was very concerned about all of the souls that do not consider and work on their spiritual progress. His words: if the soul has lived in ignorance of the unbroken flow of life, 3D, everybody, from one plane of consciousness to the next, meaning after when you die. So if you're not here right now on this earth, alive, breathing, oh, our beautiful sacred breath, if you're not at least working towards some form of spiritual progress, the unbroken flow is that weird rhythm of polarity here, right? When you leave, then, this plane of consciousness to the next, he, meaning y'all, human, may pass over without understanding until the opportunity for understanding is seemingly past. So these two fellas that he did readings for, that centuries upon centuries upon centuries, they were on two opposing sides, doing what they're told to do, harming one another, harming others, not considering what that would cause and affect for themselves and others, not striving to have some form of faith. These two fellas kept coming again and again and again and again, as I can declare many of us have. Many of us have. And beloveds, we are going to end on the note today about faith. And it's so sad that a master says, man, if you only had a mustard seed. I don't know if you all know how small that is. That is in communication that all of us have very, 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 very little, as to none, faith. And it doesn't matter what it's in. We need faith. We will be ending on that note. But these men have come and come and come and come and come, doing their thing, right? Against one another, against others, against themselves, against God, against creation. It's kind of where we are right now. But they came so much that that karma, that cause and effect, all these things that we've discussed, they've come so much. And they finally went, no, there's got to be something. There's got to be more than heartache. There's got to be more than the pain. Start working on their faith. Start working on their seeking of some sort of spiritual progress. That I'm sure they had a couple of lives of doing that. And then they're together at the ARE. And these two men who probably killed each other over and over again are working harmoniously. I will say the reading said harmoniously together. They're a great duo. They get the job done. They believe in the same thing. They're working together. Beloveds, the reason why I'm kind of stressing this because this material goes into a lot of different pockets of thought. Why I'm stressing this because it kind of states it and then drops it and moves into something else is because we actually many of our soul contracts that are dear to us, it is actually that. It could be the person you're in love with now. It could be a child. It could be a parent. It could be your best friend. A lot of our soul contracts are actually designed around the pain and the suffering, the harm, the hurt, to, yes, help us lay it down and go, there's got to be something else. There's got to be more to this. A lot of them have. I think I've stated here before that my own husband and I, unseemingly, unknowingly, unintentionally, pretty much in every life that we've been together, one of us has killed the other. Heartache, suffering. So when we got together and I figured this all out, I make a joke about it now as, hey, as long as we stay alive, I guess we're clearing the karma there. But it's true. Most of our contracts, most of our connections have brutal, sad past stories attached to them. Some could be hot and steamy, some could be tragic, some could be, yes, beautiful and blissful, but I will tell you, there's one in there that is tragic. That's what this is about. And so Brad and I are here to help each other learn, grow, inspire one another to grow spiritually, and apparently to not kill one another. We'll see how it goes, right, folks? I was joking there. But that is how it goes. So there's probably pockets of time when you meet someone or you're in one of those soul contracts now that you could feel as if you're related to or dealing with someone that is the complete opposite. Because in 3D, opposites attract. In 3D, opposites are what help one another. In 3D, it is the polarity that leads to progression, right? So try to have compassion for yourself and others. Compassion for yourself and others when opposites do attract for a reason. So when they are kind of getting under your skin, compassion for self and others. So then they kind of talk a little bit in this chapter about that's why they set up the ARE. So that the books and the lectures and the services and the library, all of it, from start to finish, could help people. That was Edgar's biggest thing. In 1932, when he was asked to give the strongest reason against reincarnation, he answered, so the strongest reason against it. This is how Edgar answered. That the law of cause and effect should exist here in the material things. Yet the strongest argument against reincarnation is also the strongest argument for it, as in any principle reduced to its essence. For the law is set, and it happens, even though a soul might will itself never to reincarnate, but would prefer to suffer and suffer and suffer, for both heaven and hell are built by the soul? That is a mighty answer before I continue on, folks. I hope the chat is doing well. Good to see everyone. That is a mighty answer. I'm going to read it again. So this is the argument against reincarnation, but yet he's saying the argument against it is also the argument for it. I think my glasses are crooked, guys, and it's throwing me off, so I apologize. It's throwing me off a bit. Let's take this in with a nice deep breath. That the law of cause and effect should exist here in the material things. Yet the strongest argument against reincarnation is also the strongest argument for it, as in any principle reduced to its essence. For the law is set, and it happens. Even though a soul might will itself never to reincarnate, but would prefer to suffer and suffer and suffer, for both heaven and hell are built by the soul. So the law of cause and effect that is here in the material things, material plane, material lives, your bodies, all of it, material, texture, what we touch, material. That is the strongest argument against it, but yet it is the strongest argument for it. That we get in this loop of cause and effect, us humans, our souls. We get into the cause and effect. And remember, folks, if you do not want to live in the cause and effect sequence that you are living currently, the way to change that is to create a new cause. We've learned that in many of the Hermetic series. You create a new cause. But it is set, it happens. And even though a soul might or could will, because we have that free will, it could will to never reincarnate here ever. It could. You all could choose that. I can almost guarantee you, you're not going to, because, let's put a they there, but they would prefer to suffer and suffer and suffer, for both heaven and hell are built within the soul. So we all keep coming back, choosing to come back, choosing to come back, knowing that both heaven and hell are built within conscious frequency. Consciousness is frequency, frequency is consciousness, heaven and hell built within the soul. We keep choosing because we know that heaven, quote unquote, heaven can be achieved, that heaven can happen amongst the material, within the cause and effect, within all of in and outside of the Hermetic principles. We all know that it can happen. So we actually do choose to come back, and we choose to come back with those souls that for some reason cause us the most harm because we love them as we love ourselves. We actually do love our enemies as much as we love ourselves. We want to see them thrive, us thrive, all have faith and live in the peace harmony of the quote unquote heaven. That's what your soul wants. I don't know about where your consciousness is at, but that's what your soul wants. For this earth, for us, for all of mankind and the rest. I'm going to continue. And these are Cayce's words now. I might just keep reading and then um, pause to explain. But does a soul have to crucify the flesh, even as he, and he is talking about Christ in that matter, Jesus, I should say. But does a soul have to crucify the flesh, even as he, when it discovers that it must work out its own salvation in the material world by entering and re entering until it achieves that soul consciousness, which would make it a companion with the Creator? Hallelujah! Heaven, right? This concept of heaven, higher consciousness, in complete flow with the Creator. When it discovers, so your consciousness, when you discover that it must work out its own salvation, that's up to you. It's your choice in the material world, right? By entering and re entering until it achieves that soul slash consciousness, which would make it a companion with the Creator. Until it works out, its soul slash consciousness, higher consciousness, seventh dimensional consciousness and above, your own salvation, it's up to you. The masters told us that. The masters also tried to teach us how. It's up to you, right? And if you don't get it this round, hey, work towards the next round, right? Right? I mean, time is not an issue here. Work towards it. I continue. Rather is the law of forgiveness been available in thy experience through the Son who would stand by thy side. So then there's another little quote from Cayce, really trying to establish forgiveness is the gateway, folks. I've said it a million times. Forgiveness is the gateway to that higher soul consciousness, one that is connected with the Creator. So then he gave a talk in 1933, Edgar Cayce, with the ARE, talking to all the associates and constituents of the ARE in 1933. And this I am going to read fully because it is Edgar's words. As to the validity of the information which comes through me when I sleep, is the question naturally that occurs to everyone. So, is this true? What Edgar's, all these readings, the validity of it, his gift, is it true? Okay. Personally, and that's Edgar speaking, personally, I feel that its validity depends largely upon much faith and confidence lie within one who seeks this source of information. In regard to this same source of information, even though I have been doing this work for 31 years, I know very little about it. Whatever I might say would be largely a matter of conjure. I can make no claims whatsoever to great knowledge, for I am also only groping, which in today's world we would say grasping. He just said, and this is from a talk that he gave in 1933 to associates of the ARE. On the validity of, and as Edgar is saying, on the validity, thank you, of what I do, right? He's saying, I still don't know much. I don't have this great knowledge that you all think I do. I'm still kind of grasping at how this all works and what's going on. But what I do know is that the messages that I give, all the stuff that you guys write down, has actually more to do with those seeking, with those who have the questions to be answered, and how much faith and confidence they have in the message than not. And I have said this before here, folks, as an Akashic reader, messenger, what have you. It is so up to the person on the other end of the phone, to the person in front of me. They will have their questions. The Akashic will answer their questions via me. What they go and do with that afterwards is up to them. I have many that will want to argue with the Akashic, and then I just kind of am in the middle going, what am I supposed to do with this? Right? They're not ready apparently to hear, right? A lot of people have questions that they don't really want the answers to, not the true answers, right? They want the answers they want to hear. Well, that's not how the Akashic is going to roll. It's up to that person. It's also up to that person to take me as credible or not credible. No sweat off my back. I'm going to keep doing what I do regardless. That is what Casey's trying to say. Because he had enough experience of knowing what came out of his mouth as someone jotted down, sending it correspondently, postal mail, to the person seeking the answer, seeking the treatment, seeking the cure. And he had plenty who didn't follow through, as to as many that did. It's not about him. It's about those who seek. It's about those who seek. I will continue reading. But then, and so this is Edgar's words, but then we all learn by experience, do we not? We come to have faith and understanding only by taking one step at a time. Most of us don't have the experience of getting religion all at once. Like the man who got halfway between the bottom of the well and the top when the explosion of dynamite went off. So he's referencing those people who all of a sudden find that faith at the last moment, the last moment. Most of us need to arrive at our conclusions by weighing the evidence along with something that answers from deep within our inner selves. As a matter of fact, there would seem to not, wow. As a matter of fact, there would seem to be not just one, but several sources of information tapped when I am in this sleepy state. So, in the idea of that, but it remains in the seeker's hands based on their faith, based on their confidence of the reading. It is that he's alluding to that concept of the last moment of when faith can arrive. That there's a big difference between those who have some sort of faith and put it into these off the wall readings, these cures, these miracles, that these understandings of the psyche of the person questioning. Do they have faith in that, or do they keep going along to only get it at the last moment? We all learn by experience, do we not? So I have always said that I rather do a timeline cleanse for someone because that is just removing negative karmic energy off of that person's awareness, right? Off of their experiences, off of their timeline, opposed to giving a reading. I will always give readings. I will always give readings. I love people dearly, they deserve. But I also know that we all learn by experience, do we not? That I can give them all of the information from the Akashic. I can give them all that the Akashic says. I sometimes partner up with those who do tarot because tarot can tell you what's going on, and then they can come see me, and the Akashic will tell you how to handle it. What are the best steps of action to take, or no action to take, whatever the best route to be. But after that person walks away, they're going to do whatever they want. They're going to do, say, be, believe in what gave them or not. The human free will is one of the most powerful forces in the cosmos. And we use it all the time, every day, every moment. It's an amazing thing, really, truly. As a matter of fact, there would seem to be not just one, but several sources of information tapped when I am in a sleepy state. One source, apparently, is the record made by an individual in all of its experiences through what we call time. The sum total of the experiences of that soul is written, so to speak, in the subconscious of that individual, as well as in what is known as the Akashic records. Anyone may read these records if he can attune himself rightly. Apparently, I am one of the few people who may lay aside the personality sufficiently to allow the soul to make its attunement to the universal source of knowledge. This is Edgar talking. Do hear what he said. So he talked about all of the experiences of all of your lives, all in the Akashic records, all of it. The sum total of the experiences of that soul is written. It's written down, Akashic records. Here, Edgar, because this is going to come back. Anyone. So that means all of you. Pa Joe, Lori, Chloe, Scotty Boy, Seeker, all of you. All of you in the chat. All of you listening afterwards. Anyone, he says, may read these records if they, I'm going to use the word they, can attune themselves rightly. And then he says, apparently, I can do that. But what it is that you lay down the personality. Let's keep going. This is Edgar. I say this, however, not in a boastful way. In fact, I don't claim to possess any power that any other person doesn't possess. I sincerely believe that there isn't any person anywhere who doesn't have the same ability as I have. I agree with Edgar. I'm certainly I am certain that all human beings have much greater powers than they are ever aware of, provided they are willing to pay the price of detachment from self interest, which is required to develop those powers or abilities. Would you be willing, even once a year, to put aside your own personality, to pass entirely away from it? Before I go into the influences, I actually got a text just yesterday from one of the patrons of Stars on Morning Light asking me various questions because I do stay open. The door is always open to all of my students, either on Patreon, in person, and even subscribers. So if you have questions, please leave a comment below. So I got this text and they were asking me about a bunch of different stuff, soul restorations and what have you, and they asked me about the Akashic, accessing the Akashic. And they had heard that you have to kind of be able to attune yourself to that energy. And I'm like, yeah. And then they had heard that there's kind of like an initiation process. And I was like, that's an interesting way to put it. Yeah, I like that way, kind of like an initiate of the flame, as we learn from Manly P. Hall all the time. We love the initiates of the flame. And so I said, yes. And to simply put it, I said, yes, you have to become pure of heart and just. And they responded with, yeah, okay, I figured as much. So there is a process. And I said, yes, there's a process. And what I mean in those, what I say is simple terms, but clearly are difficult, you know, the Akashic will, if you start that process of first, the whole process starts with you working on attuning your energy, your consciousness. Frequency is consciousness, consciousness is frequency. The gateway is forgiveness for you to start to attain the attunement to the frequency of the Akashic. It's actually its own frequency. This is not a heaven and hell and in between. The astral, definitely not. It is its own frequency. I always reference it as the 0 point of creation, the creation of, or the waters of creation. The Nagamati scriptures would refer to it as like the virgin waters, right? Oftentimes creation was referenced as virgin. So I there's lots of different things that can be referenced to it. Um, the waters of creation, the living water, 0 point of creation. I mean, there's lots of things, right? First, that you do have to start doing that. And it does take meditation. I love you all dearly. Soon with the patrons, I will be going through meditation for all the different brain types. And maybe I'll do that here for everyone here at Stars of Morning Light. So no one can, have to struggle anymore with that. There's lots of ways of going about it. But then once you're in communication, I'm not saying you're accessing anything, but there are those who govern. They govern over the Akashic. They're kind of guards of the Akashic, right? There are beings there. And even in Edgar's material, they will talk about these beings, other people that have access to the Akashic. There's always kind of these beings that will transmit the the messages unless it becomes of until it becomes more of an immersion of what goes on. They will start communicating with you if you are practicing and wholeheartedly wanting to do this for good intent, as in for yourself first. As in, when I started this, folks, is because I got fired for the first time in life. I was living in a new land called Tennessee. This is even before we moved into Georgia. I knew no one. I get fired. I mean, what do you, I was definitely, I was pushing 40, right? I had no idea what to do with myself. So it's for me. I needed to know what to do with myself, right? They will work with you though, and work with you though. And through all this initiation, which I'm going to start using that word now, they're stripping away any concept of attachment to that personality that holds on to curiosity, judgment, selfishness, any of that. It's not present in the Akashic. Those who are of curious minds, they will actually never be able to access the Akashic. You have to lay all that down. You have to lay down any kind of judgment of self and others. You have to lay everything down. It is a process and it takes commitment and dedication. But all people, and the Akashic actually really wants everybody to get on board and start doing it. Because, man, would this world be different, you know? Everyone can do it. I am going to state, as Edgar did when he brought up forgiveness, forgiveness is the gateway to any enlightenment, true enlightenment. Acceptance of it is, acceptance of it was, and it is, into forgiveness. That is your gateway into any higher consciousness. Because that is when you are truly practicing compassion for self and others. So forgiveness is your door. But anyone can do it. Anyone. There's no difference between me and you. So then he goes on to kind of talk about the when he was a child, which we have covered this in his biography. He talks about when he was I'll say this. As a child, I prayed that I might be able to do something for other people, to aid them in their understanding themselves, and especially to aid children in their ills. One day I had a vision which convinced me that my prayer had been heard and would be answered. Remember from his biography, folks, and if you don't know, please, please, please go check out the playlist here at Stars of the Morning Light. Remember he had a few different deaths. And then when he was about 12 years old, his best friend died. The girl that was his only friend who didn't call him a freak. He wanted to help kids always. He wanted to help other people. He was a special kind of young person and child. And then he took about a year to do what quote unquote he thought being a man was, which was, drinking and gambling and chasing women. That did not go well for him, and it only lasted a year, and he ran back to his grandma's house and lived with her, and then was with her for when she passed. Yeah, he was not that sort. He had always wanted to help others. One day I had a vision which convinced me that my prayer had been heard and would be answered. So I believe that my prayer is still being answered. And as I go into the unconscious condition, I do so with that faith. I also believe that the source of information will be from the universal. If the connection is not made to waver by the desires of the person seeking the reading. We're going to jump a little bit into topics here, folks. Now, some people think that the information coming through me is given by some departed personality who wishes to communicate, some benevolent spirit or guide from the other side. This may sometimes be true, but in general, I am not a medium in that sense of the term. If the person who seeks a reading, however, comes seeking that kind of contact and information, I believe he receives that kind. I'm so happy Edgar never referred to himself as a medium. It is a very, very different thing to access the Akashic than it is to be a medium. Now, I will tell you, I'm going to explain this for y'all. This happens a few times. It can happen. You don't take anything off the table. Um, and there's a few in particular that I can remember. Um, if the sense of family history and ancestry is very strong within that individual, or family duties, like they've been head of the household or they feel responsible for the family in many ways. When I do a reading for them, even if I'm in the Akashic, it will be as if all of their ancestors show up. And I'm like, wow, man, it's crowded here, you know? Um, but it's because they usually want me to tell that person to lay it down, to find their spiritual path, to heal and grow and lay it down because we are only responsible for ourselves. That has happened numerous times. Or it might be past loved ones, ancestors that have a very significant message to give. Very significant. Okay. Usually it's lay it down. Lay it down. You did great. You've been doing great with this family for lifetime after lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Lay it down. Because, oh, yeah, families travel in packs, man. Soul contracts. Soul contracts, by the way, often because of how everything's connected like a web, right? Families usually stay, I almost said recycling, reincarnating into the same geographical location and family based location a few times over until they get further out in the net, the web of all those contracts. So, yeah, ancestors can show up, but we're not doing quote unquote mediumship, right? For instance, if that person's desire is very intense to have communication from grandpa, uncle, or some great soul, then the contact is directed that way, and such becomes the source. So it's really the one that's seeking the answers is the one directing a lot of it. Do not think I am discrediting those who seek in such a way. If you're willing to receive what Uncle Joe has to say, that is what you get. If you are willing to depend upon more universal source, then that is what you get. What ye ask, ye shall receive is like a two-edged sword. It cuts both ways. 2 years earlier, he had told the ARE audience he was addressing, and these are now his words, Now, who is to be the judge as to what is the proper way and manner in which to conduct research into the mysteries of life? We are able to judge only by their fruits, only by the results people obtain when they delve into this phenomena of life. Hold just a minute. So do know, when I do a reading in the Akashic, a few different things happen, folks. A few different things happen. If I'm going to need your soul story, that's how I would put it. It's your soul frequency story. That's how the exact words I use. You know what? I'm going to take a drink of water and I'm going to do this for y'all. Give me a pause. I'm not going to actually do the action, but I'm going to speak the words of how this would go down, what this looks like, okay? What I'm doing. So, I would do a few of my beautiful Ave Sa breaths that I've learned from my master teachers and passed on to the patrons. And then I say a few things to connect myself to the Akashic. Okay? So I would take a few deep breaths. And then I would say, I, Courtney Irene McMahon, request to talk to the Akashic Records or travel, depending if I'm traveling or talking with them. I, Courtney Irene McMahon, lay down all resistance and open my multidimensional heart. I, Courtney Irene McMahon, am here to serve myself and others. I, Courtney Irene McMahon, request to speak to the Akashic Records, seeking wisdom, truth, and guidance for myself and others. I, Courtney Irene McMahon, seek safe passage to and from the Akashic Records. I say all that stuff, folks. And I repeat my name over and over again because what y'all might not know, and you would have to say your name as well. Your name, your full name, and your voice, because your voice is your sound. Your name and your voice is attached to your soul frequency story, your timeline. It's attached because your voice is your sound and your full name is your identifying marker. Like, I am Courtney Irene McMahon. Before you hear as a brunette, brown-eyed, 6 foot tall female, right? This is who I am, Courtney McMahon. So I say all that, and then I'm usually inside the Akashic because I might have to do some more breathing, travel through, kind of think of the Einstein, I can't even think of the words right now. The Einstein Bridge, right? Think that I travel right through that. Safe, easy, nobody's going to bother me. If things do want to interfere, you got to know the difference between the frequencies. There's been many a times that the astral plane will try to like intercept me and play it off that it's the Akashic. And if I'm not with it, you know, I got to check. I got to check, but it's all based on knowing the energy, knowing the frequencies of the different planes of consciousness, all of it. So, because the Akashic is also consciousness, the ethereal is actually consciousness, but it's very different. The astral, that's just the crazy dream world, consciousness. So, there's different planes of consciousness as we live in different planes of consciousness in these bodies of forms here. So that is what I would say. And then let's say after I'm done doing all that and I got to call you because you have some questions. I then pick up the phone, ring a ding ding. I call you. And then what y'all might not know, I will have you state your full legal name 2 separate times because once again, your voice and your name are attached to your frequency story. So, then when I'm on the phone with you, I will I don't know, you guys might not know this. Actually, many of you don't know this. um, I will be in the Akashic, and the first time I have you state your full legal name, it's because I am saying, I, Courtney Irene McMahon, am here as a representative for you state your name. I'm representing you vice versa. I might put it as I, Courtney Irene McMahon, I'm here as the messenger between the Akashic and you state your name, right? So they're connecting. And then I have you say it a second time, and I would say, and my hand is usually at my heart. That's why I'm holding my heart right now. And then I have you say it a second time because I then say, I, Courtney Irene McMahon, request the frequency story of you state your name. So, this can go down in 2 different ways, depending on the questions you are going to ask. It could be that your frequency story is your spiral, because it is a spiral, um, doesn't even show up, but there might be guardians there of the Akashic within the Akashic that are going to relay messages to me and or ancestors, your guides, whatever's happening. And that is all depending on the questions you've already prepared. But let's say some of your questions need much more detailed understanding, scope, or answer. Well, then this is kind of the interesting part. Your frequency story comes right to me as I am standing at the 0 point of creation, comes right to me. And let's say you then ask your question. I get the question. I ask the question for you. It might be that your story starts just kind of running through me until whoop, I hit the part. I hit where it needs to be, right? Because oftentimes our questions actually have a lot of backstory to them as to the why, as to what's really going on, as to if it's linked to past lives, right? So I see all the little details, all the little threads, all the reasons. And then there's usually, yes, some kind of guardian of your story or guardian of the Akashic that will guide me to, but this is what it's really all about right here. Or this is how we want to answer that. Now, if it's questions for the future, right? Because the future is based on your free will. You could take what I say and go run amok. And do whatever you want, right? We love human free will, especially when it's exercised in that beautiful faith-based, harmonious hope. If it's questions for the future, it's not even attached really to your timeline. The I have to ask the question, and then it's like a projection, let's say, of different potentialities. If they choose to do this, this is a potentiality, and I get to see about 5 months to a year roll out. If you choose to do that, if you choose to do this, I get about 5 months to a year as to what the cause and effect of that would be, right? So future, I can give a few potentialities, but it's not actually attached to what is. Now, what is your timeline. What is your frequency story. What is that soul's journey, striving, choosing to come back and suffer and suffer and suffer because it knows that true heaven and hell are created within the soul. And the strive for heaven is what all this suffering was about. The strive for heaven will take the suffering and wipe it away as if it was nothing. That's what happens, folks. That's what goes on when I do a reading for people. And then I answer the questions. And oftentimes, people don't know how to ask questions, which is great that I was an English major because I take all their words and I put it into a nice little question bow, make it very simple for the Akashic. Um, and that's what happens. So it could be ancestors, could be even guides. I've had guides come through. Especially the older a soul is here, some guides might come through. That's like, whoa, whoa, you're one powerful guide, you know. Um, but usually that is the case. Your frequency story runs through. Once again, the initiation process. Absolute no judgment. Absolute no need to share people's stories. Gossip. That's the word I was looking for. Couldn't even remember the damn word. Gossip. And they strip you of the 3D personalities. They really do. So you do have to be pure-hearted and just. And just as in you do right by all peoples, or at least you try. Because 3D sometimes makes it a little difficult, but no, there's absolutely no time that I could be present in the Akashic and not be just in my complete being. Now, outside of that, if you're driving like a crazy animal on the road, I'm not gonna honk my horn, I'm not gonna do anything, but I am gonna be like, "Hey," talking to myself in the car of, "There's no reason to be an animal on the road." That sort of thing. Forgiveness is the gateway. Back to Cayce. Now, who is to be the judge as to what is the proper way and manner in which to conduct research into the mysteries of life? We are able to judge only by their fruits, only by the results people obtain when they delve into this phenomena of life. I am constantly asked by people who have just come to know me, are you a spiritualist? How did you ever become interested in psychic phenomena? Are you a medium? Are you this, that, or the other? It has always been my desire to help. Sorry, it has always been my desire to be able to answer for the faith that lies within. It seems to me that if one cannot answer for that faith that one professes to live by, then such a one is not at his best. For we live by faith, day by day. If we don't know what we believe or why we believe it, we are indeed getting far afield from that which source of life would have us be. To live by faith. How can we even judge the mysteries of life when each of us has delved into this phenomena that is called life? When each of us has chosen to come back and back and back to experience, to learn, to grow. What is life? What is this phenomenon, geez, of life? Where and how do the various phenomena manifest themselves? This is Edgar now. We have a physical body, we have a mental body, we have a spiritual body or a soul, in other words. Now, each of these has its own attributes, just as the physical body has its divisions, all dependent upon all dependent one upon the other, and some more dependent than the rest. So the mind has its own source of activity that manifests in various ways through the individual body. The soul also has its attributes and its various ways of gaining, maintaining, or manifesting itself among men. The psychic force is a manifestation of the soul mind. Beloveds, we are going to return back to this. The psychic force is of the soul mind. And Edgar said that all people, all peoples, you, me, everybody, can all access the Akashic. So if you want to call that psychic or not psychic or whatever you want to call it, if you want to call it a special high frequency, attuning one's body to that energy, whatever you want to refer to it as, all people can do it. And we're actually this body, and this is why I'm kind of opening it up for probably next week or the week after's discussion, but I'm going to let it just rest here. Your physical body, mind, consciousness, subconsciousness, soul, all of the parts of your self identity, all that is you, every single part is designed to able you, to help you to actually obtain the Akashic. Every single part of the inner workings, every single one. But it does start with having the belief, the faith that you can, which really starts with the hope. So Edgar was a sincere Christian, and he will always say that. He will never deny that. He learned a great deal about what was true and not true of that Bible, and a whole lot more as more questions were presented to him. But he never let go of the Christ consciousness, that soul, comma, consciousness that this book has referenced numerous times. Soul consciousness, Christ consciousness, something higher, more evolved, progressed in that spiritual belief, faith. I can expand. I am built to do so. The world can change. Faith in something that has that can enable us to develop the awareness that we are connected to source, because Edgar will always ultimately bring it back to universal source energy or source or creator, what have you. And that soul consciousness, that is what it's referencing, to align that with the creator. As it was in the beginning, so it shall be in the end. You were created. There's just been a bunch of bumps in the road, and you're kind of tired. But have faith that it can be a smooth drive if you so choose. Right? Right? So this was kind of a fun little show. Gave you a little bit of extra detail as to what I do in my work. So, beloveds, thank you for being with me. And we're going to get back to this because it's going to get into how more of this works and how each one of us has the ability. And I actually, man, when I first started doing the Akashic readings, they were very clear with me of how they really want all of us doing it. They want all of us accessing. And it might be even more so because of that initiation process, quote unquote. Could you imagine if we stop judging ourselves and stop judging others and stop living under the dogmas of the 3D world? Hmm, that'd be beautiful. So, Podge, oh, I have to speak about this real before we go. Thank you, everybody, for coming into the chat. And beautiful Pa Joe just said, "There's no back door." Beloved, beautiful Pa Joe, I actually have a personal story about that, about somebody I knew that tried to go through the back door of the Akashic. I want everyone to know that that is actually a thing, that people are constantly, because in today's world, there's a ton of meditations out there to gain, to access the Akashic, and meditations for this, and um, all these quick internet things. Um, there are times, beloveds, that let's say I'm going to travel to the Akashic, I can visibly see um, as if people are trying to get in and they're not allowing it. I can visibly see especially at different times of the year, like around an equinox or a special celestial event, um, people that do not have not stripped things away, that are just full of curiosity and want to know everything because they're full of judgment, right? Um, I also knew a person who tried telling me that they tried to sneak through the back door. And then they were telling me all about their meditation going through the back door, and eventually they were caught and they were kicked out. And so afterwards, because this was going to be a potential business partner of mine, that when they said this to me, I was blown away, blown away of who would even have the audacity. Um, I did have to ask about that when for myself privately, because it was a part of my life, as I said, was a potential business partner of mine. And they told me that, yeah, she attempted and that she didn't really get far. And of course, they kicked her out and they said she will never lose the curiosity. And curiosity is a form of judgment. It truly is. Instead of allowing the awareness to be present, it is a form of ego, ego, judgment, all sorts of things. So, because of that, power, a lot of people that their curiosity actually is a sense of power for them. It's fascinating. Um, so yeah, Pa Joe, a lot of people always try to come through the back door. A lot of people are always trying to do a lot of things when in reality, it's much smoother and kinder, and you learn so much more about yourself and develop yourself by allowing them to help you to go through that quote unquote initiation. Because wouldn't we just want to be stripped of the things that are damaging to ourselves in the first place? Um, because curiosity does kill cats, right? So it's fascinating, but it's always fascinating to me that people think that they can just do something without putting the work into it. That's always interesting. Yes, the chosen ones aren't chosen. They need to choose from within. Amen, Pa Joe. Exactly. Exactly. It's all about healing yourself, choosing yourself within. Edgar even said that at the beginning. It is up to you to find your own salvation. It is up to you to be your own salvation. Excellent. Good job, everybody. Fixing ourselves help to serve others. Yes. Yes, everybody's had such great comments. Shelly, Pa Joe, Chloe. Once again, folks, be with us here Saturday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Chloe and all her beautiful crystals. We're going to hear all about what she's got going on with the esoteric tea episode. And Friday, March 21st. Happy equinox, folks, at 11 a.m. in the morning Eastern time, which is going to be kind of hard for some. I'm going to start the series about the shift of the poles. Yep, because we're here on this lovely earth. We help ourselves, others, and her. That's what the whole point is. So, love you all dearly. Have a great equinox. Oh my goodness, the equinox. Have a great equinox and enjoy yourselves. Until I see you again, the beautiful stars keep shining. Bye, folks.